Hey, what's up, musers? This is John at Muse for You, here to help you build awesome websites without code. And for quick tip number 17, I've decided to go over how to add an underline over your menu items as you hover. Now, at first glance, this kind of seems like an easy thing to do, but there's actually a few steps that go into adding a really nice underline to your menu on hover. So here I have a sample website, and when I hover over the menu items here, we can see that underline under the menu items here. And if I zoom in, we can see it a bit better. So you hover and you have those different menu items and the underline there. So I'll go ahead and jump in how to create this in Adobe Muse, or how to create a menu with the underline. So I'll just go into Adobe Muse, and this is a site here, and I'll create a new site by going to File, New Site, and let me zoom out here, and I'll click OK. And here I have a blank site. So I'll just go ahead and create the menu first, and then I'll add all those different elements that I used in that sample website. So to create the menu, we're going to go to Object here in the upper toolbar, Object, and then I'll zoom out here, then Insert Widget, then Menu, and then Horizontal. And then we have the menu on our place gun, so we can just place it anywhere. So I'll just place it right there. And right now we have the menu type set to top level pages. So if I had multiple pages in the top level, the menu would inherit the names of those pages. For now, because I don't have any pages on the website, I'm just going to click here and say manual, just like that. And you can also say all pages if you have sub pages within the plan view as well, and it'll inherit all the sub pages and pages that are in your website. But for now, I'll just say manual because I'm going to add the menu items manually. So I'll zoom out here, and I'm going to add 5 menu items. So I'll just place the menu here, and to add more menu items, you just click on the menu, then click again, and then you'll notice these plus symbols appear around the menu. And so I want menu items to the right of this one, so I'll click on the plus to the right. I'll go to the next one, click on the plus, the next one, click on the plus, and the next one. And I'll just drag it out a bit more here. All right, so now I have 5 menu items, so I'm just gonna go in, double click, and just change the name. So I'll say home, about, services, products, and contact. Okay, so there I have my menu items, and we have kind of this gray here. I'm going to style the menu a bit right off the gate so we can kind of see the menu a bit better. So I'm going to go into the text. This first one, I'm going to double click and just highlight the text there. Then I'm going to go into the text option up here, click on the color drop down, and select black. And all the menu items will be black as well, because if we go into the menu, if we click here and we click on the entire menu, so we click out and we click again, we have the widget options here, this blue circle with the arrow, and we can see that edit together is checked. So that means that any changes I make to one menu item will be applied to all the menu items. And this is very useful because usually you want all your menu items to have the same uniform styling. All right, so there we've changed that. Now this is where we're going to get into styling the menu a bit more. So we can see that the background is gray. I don't really want that, so I'm going to click on the first menu item, and to change that, we're going to go here, we're going to click on that menu item, and then we're going to go to the fill option right up here, click the drop down, and I'm going to say none, just like that, so it doesn't have any color in the background. I could also say white if I know that the background of my website is white. But I'll just say none for now because I don't want any color behind my menu items. Now it would seem that it's all set, but if I preview this in the browser, if I go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and I hover over the menu, we can see that it has that kind of gray box in the background. We don't really want that. So I'm going to go back into Adobe Muse. I'm going to click on the first menu item, and to change the hover states, we're going to go to the states panel up here in the upper left. So let me go here. So this is the states panel. So here I have the menu item selected, and here we have the states panel. And right now it's on normal. So in the states panel, there's normal, rollover, which is hover as well, mouse down when the user clicks on it, and active. I don't want any hover states right now, so I'm just going to click and just select this this trash can option here to delete all of the states. So it just becomes the same as the normal state. They all have the transparency in the background, and there's no difference between the states. So let's see how that looks. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser. If I hover, there's no states to it. So now this is where I want to add the underline to the states. So I'm going to click again on the Home menu item. I'm going to go to the States panel. And for the rollover state, I'll click on Rollover. And now I can style the rollover state. So what happens when the user rolls over the menu item? And this is where I want to add an underline or stroke underneath the menu item. So right over here we have the stroke option. So if I add a stroke, so if I click the drop down and let's say I add a black stroke, we can see it adds it to the, let's go back into here and I'll go to the rollover state. We can see it adds a stroke around the entire menu item. So just as an example to see it a bit better, when I hover over each of the menu items, it has a stroke, which is okay if that's the effect you're going for, but I'm going more for an underline to the menu item. So I'll click again. I'll go to the states panel right up here. I'll click on rollover and I'm going to take the stroke off by setting the stroke weight to 0 right up here. And now here we have the stroke panel, and I want to click on here, and here we have the different strokes that you can add around the menu item. We have this lock symbol, and if this is selected, if I change one stroke, it'll change the stroke for all of the sides. I don't want that to happen. I just want to change the stroke for the bottom. I'm going to set this back to 0, uncheck the lock key, or the lock symbol there, and here we have the bottom stroke weight. So here I'm going to set this to 3, kind of make it a bit thicker. And now when the user hovers over the menu items, that stroke at the bottom will appear. All right, so let me just go out of that, then I'll click on the first menu item, I'll go back to normal, and I also want that stroke to appear on the active state. So when the user is on that particular page, or if it's an anchor point scrolling website, if the user is at that particular anchor point, that stroke will appear underneath the menu item as well. All right, so here I'm on the active state. I'll go to stroke and uncheck the lock here. I'll say 3, and it automatically adds it as black, so that's okay there. And so now on the rollover, the mouse down, and the active state, we have an underline. All right, so let's see how that looks. So I'll go to File, Preview Page in Browser, and there we have it. Now this is okay. I mean, that underline is really kind of stretches across a little bit too much. So let's work with that a little bit. I just want the underline to appear under the word and not, have all this underline to the sides. So let's go back into the menu. So now to apply the stroke just to the word, we want to click on the menu. We want to go into the widget options, and we want to go in the item size. We want to say uniform spacing, not uniform size, but uniform spacing. So there's equal spacing in between all the menu items. Okay, and then I'll go over here, and then you want to click on a menu item, so the first one here, and then double click on the label here, so the text in here. And we don't want to highlight the text. So let me go out here, let me zoom in again, click once, and then just click once in there to select the text. So we click once and then click again on the text. Okay, and now I want to go to the states panel right up here, and let me do it like this so we can see it as well. So I'll go to the normal, and then I'll go to rollover, and then I'll apply the stroke again. So I'll uncheck the lock option here, and I'll just add a stroke of 3. And that's it. So now the stroke won't be applied to the entire button, but it'll be applied to the text inside the button. So let's see how that looks. And also we want to apply the active state. So let me go to the normal, active, go to stroke, uncheck the lock, and I'll say 3. I'll zoom out, and we'll preview that in the browser. And perfect. So there we have the underline under each word. So at first it may seem like it's pretty simple, but if you get that whole menu button, the stroke underneath the entire menu button, then you might not really want that. You might just want it underneath the word. So the other thing you can do is set a bit more distance in between the text and the stroke. So I'll click on the text here, and let me zoom in. So I'll double click and I'll highlight the text there. And then right up here, let me see if I can find it, we have this option that says space after. So here we have the space after option, and this adds more space after the text or below the text. So I'm just gonna kind of change this to 5, and we'll see how that looks. So there'll be 5 pixels after the text. And as we can see, there's more spacing between the text and the menu item, which I like there. So again, just to review that, I'll go into the menu, click on the label, double click, highlight, go into the text spacing options here in the upper control bar, and here we can change the space after to allow more spacing between the text and the stroke. And as we can see, there's definitely more spacing, 10 pixels after the text, in between the text and the stroke. I like 5 pixels, so I'm gonna go back in, select the label, double click, select the text, and go back into the space after and change this to 5. And just like that, we have the stroke underneath the menu items with a bit of spacing. Looks good. All right, so now I'm gonna place this menu item, or this menu right here at the top, and I'm gonna go through a few different other styling options. So we have the same kind of landing page here as this one here. So let me go back to the home page. The first thing I did with that page is I added the browser border widget. So I'm gonna go to my library panel here to the right, and I'm gonna select the browser border. So I'm just gonna type in browser, and I'm gonna bring in the browser border all sides with image. So here I'm gonna click, hold, and drag and place onto my Adobe Muse website. I'm gonna go into the widget options, and I'm gonna change the border width to 50, and the border color I'm gonna change to white. And that's all I have to do there for the browser border. And now I'm gonna add an image to the entire website. So here in the browser fill option, I'm gonna click the drop down. I'm going to click on add image, and I have this image here from unsplash.com. Okay, and I'll select that image, and then I'm going to scale to fill and position it in the center and uncheck scrolling so it doesn't scroll or get larger as the height of the website gets larger. And this image isn't compressed, but I probably would compress it before adding to Adobe Muse. So here's the image. So if I go to File, Preview Page, and Browser, and there we have the image with the browser border. And the browser border is on top of the menu, so I just want to go to the Layers panel, click on Layer 1, and bring the menu on top of the browser border widget. So we can see that menu. So I'll preview, and there we have the menu. And I want to pin this menu to the upper right, so I'm going to click on the menu, and then in the pin option right up here, I'm going to click upper right. So it stays pinned and doesn't move if the user scrolls. And there we have the menu with the underline, we have the image, and I'll just add a bit more text here. So here I'll add a text box, and I'll say all of the lights. I'll select it, make it white, and then here I'm using a Garamond text. So we have it here, and I'm going to change the text to 98 so it's a bit larger. And I'm also going to pin this text to the upper left and move it in a little bit so the browser border, so it's not too close to the browser border. Okay, and I'm just gonna grab this text here, so just to save some time, and just paste it in there, and there we have the text as well. Okay, I'll add more spacing to the website. There we go. Let's see how this looks. And I can bring everything in a bit more and bring this down a bit and bring this up a bit here, and I think that should do it. That looks pretty good. I'll just leave it like that for now, and I'm going to bring in the font smoother just to make that font a little bit nicer. So I'll go to the library panel, I'll bring in the font smoother, and I'll bring in the font smoother light here. Okay, and I want this main title here to fade in, so I'll bring in the animator, type in ANMTR, and I'll bring the add first here. So I'll click, hold, and drag, place right there, and then I'll bring in the Animator Onload here. Yeah, so I selected the onload here, and then I'll go into the widget options. I want it to fade in, so I'll just select the fade in option here, and I'll set the duration to 3000 milliseconds, so it's 3 seconds, and that's all I have to do there. I'll set the initial opacity to 1, and I don't need a fade in because I've already selected the fade in option here in the widget. So now I want to apply the graphic style name animate1 to the text, so I'll click on the text and I'll go to my graphic styles panel and I'll create a new graphic style, double click, and I'll call this animate1. So now this text will fade in when the user first visits the website. So I'll preview, file, preview page in browser, and there we have it. All of the lights, we have the text here, the picture, and we have our nice menu with the stroke underneath it. So that's it for this quick tip. I know it was fairly long. I did want to go over the different steps that you might go through with the menu item. That's why it took a little bit longer than I thought, because when you first add the stroke, you might think, oh, you know, I have a nice stroke underneath my menu, but it goes across the entire menu button. So you do have to click a couple of times to go into the label, which is the text in the menu item, and then style the stroke from there in the states panel. And one last thing I want to add, you can add kind of a fade in effect to the underline. So here we see it just kind of jumps, the underline jumps to each menu item as I hover. But if we go back into the website here, I'm going to go to the layers panel and actually kind of hide some of these items here, or just go into the browser fill and delete the image for now so we can see the menu. So I'll go into the menu, so I'll click once and I'll zoom in here, I'll click on the label, and then I'll go to my states panel over here to the upper left. I'll click on rollover, and right down here we have this transition option. So I'll click the drop down, I'll click on fade, and we'll leave it, or we'll say 0.3 seconds so it's not so slow. So it's 0.3 seconds there. For mouse down the same, and for active I'll say fade and we'll say 0.3 as well, and we'll do ease in out, so it's a nice ease when rolling in and rolling out. So the same for the mouse down and the rollover state, we'll say ease in out. So those are nice options there. Came in a later release of Adobe Muse, but you can add some nice easing and some nice fading to different transitions in the states panel. So now I'll zoom out and I'll go ahead and bring back the image. So I'll click on the website, go to browser fill, click add image, and I'll select this image here. And all the options will stay kind of how they were. So scale to fill, position it in the center, and no scrolling. Alright, so I'll go to file, preview page in browser, and now when I roll over, we have a nice smooth fade in when going over those different menu items there. And I do want to change the text actually for this menu, so let's go in here, and I have a kind of another font here, Cuesta Grande, and let's preview that one last time. Alright, there we go. So I'll zoom in, and there we have that underline or that stroke underneath the menu items with the nice fade. So you can work with the fade options and the transition options in the states panel. So that's it for this video tutorial. The browser border widget, the animator widget, and the font smoother widget can be found at museforYouShop.com. And here you can click on subscribe now to go to the widgets page, and we have the different widgets here. So the animator, we have, I think the browser border is, must have passed it. Here's the browser border widget, and the font smoother widget is a bit lower within the site, but hopefully it's on the page. Yeah, and here's the font smoother. So those are the widgets that I used on the website. It can be found at museforYouShop.com. You can purchase individually by clicking add to cart here, or clicking subscribe, and you get access to all widgets and any new widgets I come out with for $39 a year. You can click subscribe here or subscribe with PayPal. So that's it for this video tutorial. Again, I do this to help you build awesome websites without code. If you like this video tutorial, you can subscribe below. Also in the show more section below are links to other resources and links to museforYouShop.com. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you.